Good morning, everybody. 7 o'clock here in the UK. Very welcome to spend your breakfast with us here at Sky News. GPs under pressure and now plan to name and shame those not doing enough to deliver face-to-face appointments. The Health Secretary Sajid Javid on the show shortly to explain his thinking. Plus, can other countries trust doing trade deals with the UK after the EU offers an olive branch on the deal we signed on the Northern Ireland Protocol? We'll put that to the Shadow Foreign Secretary, Emily Thornberry, actually. She's with us as well.
Beam me aboard. Energize.
Energizing.
Yeah, beam me up, Bezos. Why space trips like William Shatner's Voyage to the Stars haven't had the royal seal of approval. We'll be discussing that with the astronaut Tim Peake at 9:30. And half-term heaven. Oh yeah, we'll take you on a little holiday to some of those countries that have come off the red list. We're going to, you ready? Burley and Abu Dhabi. 7:30. I know. We're spoiling you. Thursday, 14th of October. Name and shame league tables for GPs to boost face-to-face appointments. But those who don't deliver won't get a slice of the new NHS pie.
You should always be able to see a GP. Not over telephone, not by video. You should be able to have a GP's appointment within at least 24 hours.
I'm in a GP surgery in West London where doctors are under pressure to see more patients despite doing longer hours without enough staff.
Bow and arrow attacks, 5 people shot dead and 2 wounded in Norway as police charge a suspect. We can't fix every problem as warnings continue of a Christmas supply crisis. The Chancellor appears to rule out helping businesses with soaring gas prices.
We're doing absolutely everything we can to mitigate some of these challenges. They are global in nature, so we can't fix every single problem.
UK and EU officials to meet after an offer to cut 80% of checks on some goods moving from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. But will that be accepted? Caribbean Climate Grenada calls for more foreign aid to help combat the crippling cost of climate change ahead of the COP26 summit. Our special report at 8:30.
On this island alone, that's going to cost hundreds of millions of dollars. That's way more than it can afford. And it's a story that's playing out on climate-vulnerable nations across the world.
As lava continues to burn buildings on La Palma, we'll talk to a volcanologist on Mount Etna about the island's future. Good morning to you. GPs under pressure to provide more face-to-face appointments are to be put into league tables, with those not giving an appropriate level of appointments not given access to a new slice of NHS funding. A doctor has told this programme this morning that GPs feel bashed by the government and that there simply aren't enough doctors around. Sky News data shows a big fall in the number of GPs in large parts of England over the last 5 years. Special analysis by Sky's data team has found northern parts of the country have been particularly hard hit, with the area of Blackburn with Darwen seeing its numbers fall from 45 GPs per 100,000 patients to 33, a 27% drop. Face-to-face appointments are still below pre-pandemic levels across England. In the same area, just 35.9% of appointments were face-to-face this summer, compared with 87.8% in 2019. Inzamam Rashid reports now from Blackburn with Darwen, where GPs and their patients are calling for more funding.
Access to a GP is the first line of much-needed care for Julie. 2 years ago, she developed sepsis. Today, she struggles to see a doctor face-to-face.
That should be your first point of call, your GP, and you should be able to see a GP no matter what. You should always be able to see a GP. Not over telephone, not by video. You should be able to have a GP's appointment within at least 24 hours.
It doesn't help that she lives in the area which was losing GPs even before the pandemic. Now, the frustrations are too much.
You just feel so low. Sometimes I just feel like crying out for help and there's just nobody there. It's just gone to dogs, basically. That's the way the health service has just gone to the dogs.
After years of cuts to budgets and a waning number of colleagues, GPs across the country are in crisis.
Tell me about the ultrasound scan now.
Dr. Murthy has been doing this job for more than 30 years. He loves it, but he says being a GP in Blackburn right now is the most difficult it's ever been.
I'm working at the moment almost 10 hours a day, and I'm also working on the weekends, just to catch up some urgent work, not the routine work. And that is the reality of it. We are seeing 40, 50 patients, either on telephone, face-to-face, and that is per day. And by the time in the evening, you are exhausted.
It's a situation public health leaders here say is all too familiar.
We lost a year's male life expectancy during the COVID pandemic. We're never going to recover equal life chances for our children if we don't make sure that everyone has equal and fair access to GPs.
But with a funding boost from government, signs of levelling up are now on show. They say access to GPs will improve and there will be an increase in face-to-face appointments. An extra £250 million will alleviate this national problem. Without GPs, our NHS would crack and crumble. It's clear they need this help now more than ever, so they can help those who need it. Inzamam Rashid, Sky News, Blackburn.
Pleased to have the Health Secretary with us this morning. Hello to you. Busy day for you. Thanks for taking the time to join us this morning. Tell us about your plans to improve access to GPs.
Well, first, I want to thank GPs for the phenomenal work that they've done, especially during the pandemic, but of course, everything they continue to do. And we want to support them to do what they do best, which is to see patients and to see more patients properly and in a way that the patient chooses. And that's what this GP access package is about that we're announcing today. So it includes action on multiple fronts to achieve just that. And, for example, 3 of the major measures inside this package is an extra £250 million winter access fund that will help increase capacity. There's also measures by the UK Health Security Agency in changes to the social distancing guidance, and then also an expansion of what's called the community pharmacy scheme. And taken together with all the other measures, this will help GPs to see more people face-to-face and more promptly.
Should everyone who wants a face-to-face appointment be able to have one?
Yeah, I think I believe in choice. So I think that's what patients want to see, and the vast majority of GPs I talk to, they say, look, if you can help us to increase capacity, if you can provide us support, that's also what we want to do. So I think patients should have a choice, and if there are some that will absolutely choose that they prefer remote or online versus face-to-face, and that absolutely can be right for them, but there should be a choice.
They feel as though they're under pressure, though, don't they? They feel like they're being battered by the government at the moment and they're doing everything that they possibly can.
I think GPs are working incredibly hard, and especially over the last couple of years. I mean, could there have been a more testing time for anyone working in healthcare? It's hard to have imagined that, and I think they have what they've done, especially around the vaccination programme, for example, has been phenomenal. But at the same time, we've also seen an increase in the waiting lists for the NHS more generally. We've seen people stay away from the NHS, including their GPs, for understandable reasons during the pandemic, and so we do need to increase capacity. And there are many people that they want to be seen in a certain way, and I think it's right that we support GPs deliver that.
Yeah, but GPs are seeing people more face-to-face now than they ever have been, aren't they?
And I think from what I've seen, the latest numbers that are published by the NHS, before the pandemic, I think it was roughly around 80% of consultations were face-to-face. At the moment, it's around 60%. And GPs...
I'm just looking at some figures, so I don't know if you recognise these. In the week beginning 16th of August, GPs provided 5.6 million appointments and gave 374,000 COVID jabs, 2019, for the equivalent week, 5.3 million appointments and no jabs. And there are 1,900 fewer GPs over that time. So they're doing more work now than they've ever done before.
Well, maybe the stats you're reading there is total appointments rather than broken down between sort of remote and face-to-face. But it's true, certainly GPs are seeing more people, including vaccinations. They've been an important part of our vaccination programme, especially for elderly people and going into care homes in many cases. And that's been really vital support. In terms of GP numbers, which you just touched on, look, we do have a shortage of GPs in this country, and the government has recognised that. Over the last 2 years, we've actually seen an increase in the full-time equivalent number of GPs of something like, I think, 1,200. So we have seen an increase, but I want to see a lot more GPs.
1,900
so this year,
fewer GPs over that period of time.
Over the last 2 years, there's been an increase. Depending on how far back you go, you can have different numbers.
Well, in 2015, Cameron was promising us every week at the dispatch box there'd be 5,000 more GPs. Where are they?
Well, I want to see more GPs, and it will take time to get more GPs into the system. This year, I was
6
pleased.
years ago,
well, this summer we had the highest number of students enter medical school for GP training, and that does mean we're building that pipeline. But look, we've been very clear about this. I think that we do need more clinicians generally throughout the NHS, whether that's in primary care, in acute care, and that is something that's happening. Nurses, we're hiring many more nurses as well, and that support continues, and that continues with record funding into the NHS.
Okay.
Both over the pandemic and before that with the long-term plan. But today's announcement is about GP access, and it's right that we provide more support.
Shouldn't we be enjoying them embracing the tech, though? I mean, they're embracing the technology. You don't have to be face-to-face. Quite often I interview your colleagues down the line. Doesn't mean that what they're saying is any less effective.
We should absolutely be making maximum use of technology throughout the NHS. It's something I've talked about very recently, actually, how I want to see that. And what we have seen during the pandemic is that people understand at that time, at the height of the pandemic, you could only be seen remotely. Everyone understands that. And there will be some people that think maybe if they've done that for the first time, that suits them. They might have a busy life, it might be a minor illness, and that might suit them. And that's a decision for them. But what I've also heard is from GPs directly is that we need more support. You need to cut away some of the bureaucracy we face. You need to give us more funding so that we can perhaps work overtime and open longer hours and support us with that. And you need to speak to the UKHSA to see if they will continue with their review of the NHS and the infection control guidance, and which is what's happened. And so we've been listening. We've taken action, and I want to thank again GPs for everything that they're doing. They will continue to have the full support of the government, of the NHS in everything that they do.
Yeah, are you listening though? I mean, a survey from the BMA, giving you figures again, 50% of doctors suffering from anxiety, depression, stress or burnout, 60% high levels of fatigue, 30% taking up additional unpaid hours to try to make sure they're there for their patients when they're needed. I was speaking to a GP this morning who said to me, ask him, who runs the NHS, you or the Daily Mail?
Well, the NHS is run, everyone knows how the NHS is run through a professional, serious management. We've just appointed a new CEO of the NHS, and it's GPs that will decide in their particular surgery how they're going to run that day to day. But what they've also, what they've also said is that they need more support. To see more patients. If
they're burnt
want
out,
to see more
they're
properly.
Knackered, they're depressed, and they feel that you're bashing them.
Well, actually, there have actually been, over the last few months, I've certainly noticed while I've been in this job, there have been some horrid cases of abuse towards health workers, to social care workers, to GPs included in that. And I have to say that is totally unacceptable at any level. There's a zero tolerance, as far as I'm concerned, about abuse to anyone in health and social care. And one of the reasons actually GPs have said to me that they feel pressured is because of some of the abuse that they suffer. It might be online abuse, it might be anonymous. And one of the things I've included in this package as well is, for the first time, a £5 million security fund. So for those GP surgeries that feel that they want to take extra measures on security, there's support for that as well. And a final thing, if I may mention, something else I do want to do, and I can't announce the full details of it today because I want to work with GPs and the NHS more broadly and get it right, is when I was a Home Secretary, I decided I wanted to do something that became the police covenant, to provide more long-term support, put it into law for police in that case, of course. And I want to do something very similar for all NHS workers, of course, including our fantastic GPs. And I want to work with people and get that right to show and also demonstrate and give more support.
Yeah, they don't feel supported. They feel bashed by the government. That's my point. They don't feel that you've got their back.
Well, this whole package today is about support. The funding that we're putting in, the extra 250 million, £250 million of new, fresh funding is something that we've been asked for. And in fact, many people, from the feedback I've got already, have been surprised by the size and of the financial support that's being provided, but the support we're providing through working with the pharmacists so that they can take some of that load off GPs and deal with some of the minor illnesses, the support we're providing in taking away some of the red tape. I mean, this is all support, and it's all about helping GPs so they can do what they love best, which is seeing their patients.
But, you know, you plan to name and shame those who don't actually reach those targets that you're going to put in front of them.
For that. I mean, what we are doing is
perception is reality, and this is what a GP said to me this morning when I told him that you were coming into the programme. These are the points that he wanted me to put.
And that GP, obviously, I don't know who that is, but they're entitled, of course, to their views. But it's also important that we stick to facts. And so what we are doing is providing more data and more transparency.
So these are people on the front line and they don't understand the facts, is that what you're saying?
Well, we've published a document today. I don't know if the document was published this morning at around 6 a.m. So I don't know whether the person that you're referring to has had the time to read the entire document, which goes into a number of pages and goes into immense detail. I mean, do you know if the person read the document first?
I have no idea.
Well, there you go. So, based on the facts,
do you think that this is based on
what I'm telling you is based on the facts?
Going to change all of the frustrations of these GPs, half of whom are suffering from depression?
I think it's going to help because this is about providing more support, more financial support, removing the red tape that GPs have often talked to me about. It's about spreading the workload for primary care, for example, using the community pharmacy scheme more. It's to provide support also. There's a plan in there to provide direct support to those practices that ask for it, that would like more expert advice, and the NHS can send in a team and help them with that. And the point I just wanted to make, because you did touch on it, it's about transparency. At the moment, when you get data at a GP level, it's only available at a regional level, not practice by practice. The NHS now, for well over a year, has been piloting a scheme, I think, with 60 practices, where it's practice by practice data. And this is important. It's important that patients have this information, because I also want to see a levelling up of healthcare throughout the country. I've talked a lot about disparities in healthcare, and I think we do need to understand what the differences in healthcare provision are across the country and have the best data available.
OK, you talked about transparency there. Did we ever intend to stick to the protocol when it came to the Brexit agreement over Northern Ireland? Because, of course, you'll know Mr Cummings has said we signed the deal never planning to stick to it and to ditch the bits we didn't like further down the line.
But we signed that agreement in good faith. I was in the government then in a different role, and I know we signed it in good faith. And, of course, it's been 2 years, roughly, since then, and it's right that we look at how it's working. We don't think it's working well in practice. We think, for example, the EU is taking an over-legalistic approach. And I think it's right that we talk to our friends in the EU again and see if any changes can be made.
So what they've said is, as you know, because I'm sure you've read it, they're basically budging on 80% of the options for, amongst other things, sausage wars, as it's been described. But one thing, they've even moved a little bit as far as what the European Court of Justice is concerned and whether they will be overseeing the change in rules. Is that going to be enough?
I haven't seen the EU document yet. I haven't had any time to study it. It's good that they're engaging with this discussion. I know, for example, from the area that I'm responsible for, medicines, healthcare more broadly, that we've had issues with medicine supply in Northern Ireland, and no one wants to see issues like that. It's not in anyone's interest, whether they're in Northern Ireland or Ireland, for that matter. And I think it's important that these discussions continue, and if sensible changes can be made, that's exactly what we'd want to see.
Is the European Court of Justice a red line for the government?
I think we do. There's no really... Looking forward, there should not be a role for the European Court of Justice in anywhere, any part of the UK, and that includes Northern Ireland. I think it's an over-legalistic approach that the court has.
So they've got the sticky fingers anywhere near it. It's not a deal.
And I think Lord Frost has been really clear about this with the speech that he made this week, and what he said, I think, are the principal arguments. And one of those issues, one of the most important issues, is to end the role of the ECJ in Northern Ireland. And I think that's one of the the better ways to make sure that we're also protecting what was agreed in the Good Friday Agreement for the benefit of not just everyone in Northern Ireland, but in Ireland too, the whole island of Ireland.
Yeah, safety and security in Northern Ireland, of course. But it does sound as though we're going to reject it, from what you're saying.
Look, that's not a decision for me, and I'm focused on health matters. You've asked me about the protocol. I've shared my views,
but you're representing the government this morning, of course,
I know
aren't
it's
you?
something that Lord Frost will look at very carefully, and if the government decides to take a different approach, then it will be a collective decision.
OK, just a quick thought before I let you go. I read in the paper this morning that your mum had always wanted you to be a doctor. I'm guessing she might want you to be a lorry driver at the moment. We're in short supply.
Well, I think the government's addressing that issue. There's a short supply of lorry drivers across the world, and I think there's a shortage of 400,000, roughly, in Europe, and some 70,000
I wonder why they don't want to come here. We wanted 5,020 so far.
I think being a lorry driver is a great job, by the way, and so I hope that...
You managed to get that in just under the wire through our lorry drivers this morning.
And I hope that more people are attracted to that.
Why do you think they're not?
I think it's multiple issues. It's got to... We're seeing this issue across Europe, actually recently in the US as well. There's a shortage. And it's I think a lot of it has to do with the pandemic and the sudden demand that's been created as the world's in effect sort of waking up after the economic shock. And it will take some time to sort this out. In terms of what we've done in the UK to attract more people into the industry, that's going to help. And I'm sure that this will be something that will be resolved in the months to come. OK, I have to let you go. I know there's so many other people that you're going to talk to. But when... our previous Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, came and did a 45-minute Ask the Health Secretary. Will you come and do the same for us? As long as it's with you, of course. How can I resist it? There we go. Can somebody make sure that we've got a note of that? Thanks a lot. Yeah. It's great to talk to you. Thanks so much indeed. Thank you. Let's bring in our correspondent, Milena, who's standing by at a GP surgery in West London for us this morning. Milena, I wonder how they'll be feeling about what they've heard from their boss today.
Well, quite mixed feelings, Kay. There are some measures that are welcome, such as reducing bureaucracy and red tape, bringing other health professionals to do things like fit-for-work notes and provide checks for the DVLA. That has been broadly welcomed, but GPs are warning that those are measures that are going to take some time to implement, so it's not going to be a quick fix. It's not like immediately there'll be a man's capacity for more appointments. And GPs are also saying that this measure that patients can now rate their surgeries can be really demoralizing for a workforce that's already pretty much on their knees after a long pandemic. GPs are saying there are already ways that you can feed back your experience, and this could be just another blow to an already suffering profession, and then struggling practices could be penalised instead of being supported. Another thing that the Royal College of GPs are saying is that they simply don't have enough staff. The workforce is overstretched. They need many more thousands of GPs, and they want the government to support them in that way.
OK, thank you, Milena. Thank you. Going to be talking to a GP later on in the programme. Still to come this hour, 7:30, we'll be visiting some dream destinations, Abu Dhabi and Bali, looking to open their doors to international travel in time for half-term. Have you booked yet? 20 to 8, talking to the Welsh First Minister ahead of the Queen's opening of the 6th session of the Senedd. 7:45, be joined by the Director of the Northern Ireland Retail Consortium, Aidan Connolly, to discuss what next for the Northern Ireland Protocol. Before that, Norwegian police have charged a 37-year-old Danish man after 5 people were killed with a bow and arrow in the town of Kongsberg. 2 more were injured in the attack, which happened 50 miles southwest of the capital, Oslo. Police were called to the centre of Kongsberg at 6:30 last night, with reinforcements quickly sent in from other areas. Joining us now from Kongsberg is TV2 reporter Thea Odengarden. Hello to you, Thea. Thanks for joining us. Tell us more about what happened.
Hello, good morning. So we just got the news about the man who did this attack and that he acknowledges the conditions. So he hasn't pled guilty, but he confirms that he is the man who did these terrible actions last night. We know a bit more about this man now. He's, as you said, a 37-year-old Danish citizen who lives in Kongsberg, and he has been here last night, been shooting around with this bow and arrow. Police confirm now that he also used other weapons, which as knife. And it was half an hour chaos here in Kongsberg. He was just moving around town in the center and shooting at people, and people were running for their lives, and it was a bit scary and confusing, the whole situation.
Do we actually know what the motive was? I mean, do we actually have any further detail? I think we might have lost Thea. Are you still there, Thea? No, she isn't, unfortunately.
I'm here, I'm sorry.
Oh, you can hear me. Okay, we can still... Hi. Motives. What are the motives?
We don't know about the motives. And the police say that it's a bit early to say something about it, but they say now that they cannot... they have to consider this as a terror thing, because they don't know the motives, and it's when so many people are killed, it's naturally to see that perspective too.
Okay, it's good to talk to you. Thanks for the update. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Chancellor Rishi Sunak says the government is doing everything it can to improve the situation in the face of the supply chain crisis affecting countries around the world. The shipping giant Maersk says it's diverting vessels away from Felixstowe, the UK's largest container port, because of a build-up of cargo. The plan is to unload elsewhere and use smaller vessels to get deliveries to the UK. That's going to take time, isn't it?
What's clear is that many countries around the world are experiencing supply chain challenges, just like we're seeing in the UK. We're doing absolutely everything we can to mitigate some of these challenges. They are global in nature, so we can't fix every single problem, but I feel confident that there'll be good provision of goods for everybody, and we are working our way to remove blockages where we can.
Similar situation at Los Angeles, where container ships can be seen sitting in the bay there. A traffic jam that's threatening the US economy. Joe Biden has promised to expand operations, but it's the holiday shopping that's worrying people.
The Port of Los Angeles announced today that it's going to begin operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is the first key step toward moving our entire freight, transportation, and logistical supply chain nationwide to a 24/7 system.
Let's have a quick look at some of the papers for you this morning. Now, the Express says shoppers are being urged to buy their Christmas presents early because of the supply chain crisis. The Mirror calls it the rush to save Christmas. And it's also the lead story for the Eye, which says shops are facing goods delays for Christmas. The Mail reports on a raft of new funding to be offered to GPs across the country in an effort to get them to see more patients face to face. And the Metro carries Prince William's criticism of space tourism of the sort enjoyed by William Shatner. He insists the future of the planet should be a bigger priority. Many women are being forced to take time off work and even leave their jobs because of a lack of support during the menopause. That's according to a poll of just under 4,000 women, which found that most feel the menopause or the time leading up to it had a major impact on their lives and careers, as Aisha Zahid reports.
At 43, Katie began experiencing debilitating symptoms brought on by the menopause. From anxiety to insomnia, working life became a struggle.
It was really significant because I was existing on about 3 hours sleep a night. You know, it's very common. A lot of women suffer with insomnia. And I was dragging myself into the office. I couldn't concentrate because I was so exhausted. The brain fog, you know, really impacted on, you know, my own ability to do my job.
Over the course of several years, she had to leave 3 jobs.
It's the embarrassment around the taboo of not wanting to tell your bosses what you're going through. You're worried that they're going to think they should never have employed you, or that, you know, you're not really fit for purpose. So I stopped work, and it was really pretty upsetting.
Katie isn't alone. According to new research, 99% of women say their symptoms have negatively affected their careers. More than half have had to take time off work, and 60% say their workplace didn't offer any menopause support. Professionals are calling on employers to do more. They want to see menopause treated in the same way as mental health and maternity schemes.
menopause has such a negative impact for so many women, and these women aren't receiving the right help, support and treatment, that their only option is to not go for promotion, to reduce their hours or to give up work, which is so sad. It's a personal loss for them, but it's also a loss for the economy as well, and organisations are hemorrhaging women.
Katie has made it her goal to raise awareness around the menopause, but starting conversation is just the beginning. Ultimately, change lies in the hands of employers. Aisha Zahid, Sky News.
In La Palma, there's no sign that the volcanic activity will end soon as a new stream of lava escaped from the erupting volcano. Hundreds of people in Spain's Canary Islands feared for their homes and property as a new river of lava threatened to destroy their neighbourhoods. All they could do was watch and hope. Torrents of molten rock have destroyed well over 1,000 buildings in the 3 weeks since the eruption, according to the Canary Islands Volcanic Institute. These are live pictures right now. My goodness me, it continues to do its worst on the island of La Palma, and it doesn't look as though it's going to subside anytime soon. Speaking to an expert, a volcanologist, in the next hour here on Sky News. Prince William has hit out at the space tourism industry just hours after the Star Trek Captain Kirk, William Shatner, touched down after his 11-minute voyage to the edge of space. William said it was time to focus the world's greatest minds on trying to fix the Earth instead of trying to find the next place to go and live. Beam me up, Scotty. William's comments came even as the 90-year-old actor was experiencing weightlessness and seeing the Earth from a perspective most people will never see. His trip was made possible by the billionaire owner of Amazon and the space rocket, Jeff Bezos. 90 years old. Goodness me. Glad we got those Star Trek pictures on. After an exhilarating trip to outer space, William Shatner was visibly emotional and thanked the team for making it possible. Here's what he had to say.
You have given me is the most profound experience I can imagine. I'm so filled with emotion about what just happened. It's extraordinary, extraordinary.
9:30, we are going to be joined by the British astronaut Tim Peake to talk through William Shatner's journey and also probably Prince William's reaction as well. Looking forward to that. They say 2 heads are better than 1, but I'm not quite sure this is what they had in mind. Have a look at these pictures. A dual-headed terrapin is the newest attraction at an American wildlife centre in Cape Cod. It's claimed the unnamed turtle has, now I don't know how to pronounce this, somebody probably does, bicephaly, a condition granting 2 heads due to a rare environmental factors during an embryo's development. Vets found it at a protected nesting site before being taken to hospital for assessment. The findings suggest its right side of the body is more developed than the left, but can still eat and also digest food. And it's also got 6 legs. Looking at our climate dashboard for you. Here we go. As I always say, it can be a little bit overwhelming, but please don't let it be. I'll break it down for you. Top row, there you are. That's the real-time power mix. So, for example, it says fossil fuels there, 36%. That was 50-odd% earlier on in the week. So we're not as reliant on fossil fuels towards the end of the week. Much more from renewables. The one below that, 1.23 degrees higher now than it was in 1880 when records began. When it gets to 1.5 degrees Celsius higher than 1880, that's when scientists are very anxious indeed. And they're telling us, as of today, that's 11 years away, unless we do something about it. Very much on the agenda at COP26 at the beginning of next month, as is the total carbon dioxide emissions at the bottom there in millions of tonnes. Watch that clicking through. And a reminder that you can get all the latest on the Sky News Daily Climate Show, which airs every weekday evening at 6:30. We were hearing from the Health Secretary just a short time ago, and he was talking, amongst other things, about GPs, new packages for GPs, hundreds of millions of pounds. Will it be enough? I was chatting to a GP this morning, and he said, ask him who's running the NHS. Is it him or is it the Daily Mail?
We've taken action,
Are you
and I want to thank again GPs for everything that they're doing. They will continue to have the full support of the government, of the NHS in everything that they do.
Yeah, are you listening though? I mean, a survey from the BMA, giving you figures again, 50% of doctors suffering from anxiety, depression, stress or burnout, 60% high levels of fatigue, 30% taking up additional unpaid hours to try to make sure they're there for their patients when they're needed. I was speaking to a GP this morning who said to me, ask him who runs the NHS, you or the Daily Mail?
Well, the NHS is run, everyone knows how the NHS is run through a professional, serious management. We've just appointed a new CEO of the NHS, and it's GPs that will decide in their particular surgery how they're going to run that day to day.
Also asked him about the Northern Ireland Protocol sausage wars, basically, and whether the Europeans who've bent over backwards, they would say, taking away 80% of the regulations that are in place at the moment, would that be enough for the UK to finally agree that deal?
Looking forward, there should not be a role for the European Court of Justice in anywhere, any part of the UK, and that includes Northern Ireland. I think it's an over-legalistic approach that the court has.
So they've got the sticky fingers anywhere near it. It's not a deal.
And I think Lord Frost has been really clear about this with the speech that he made this week, and what he said, I think, are the principal arguments. And one of those issues, one of the most important issues, is to end the role of the ECJ in Northern Ireland. And I think that's one of the better ways to make sure that we're also protecting what was agreed in the Good Friday Agreement for the benefit of not just everyone in Northern Ireland, but in Ireland too, the whole island of Ireland.
Tamara's here. Thoughts, Tamara? Good morning.
Morning. So Sajid Javid is alive to these concerns. We've got newspaper campaigns about the lack of face-to-face GP appointments. Obviously, during the pandemic, a lot of that had to go onto phone calls and to video calls. And while some people are perfectly happy with that, he said that GPs should be able to decide themselves whether someone wants to have a video call, wants to be seen in person. But if someone does want to be seen in person, they should be able to see them. And he accepts that means more resources. This 250 million, a lot of that is going to go on locums, which will increase the number of appointments. So that is good, especially because in some areas, as we just heard, there are up to 3,000 patients being seen by just one GP. So that will help. But these are not people who know the patient. So it doesn't help with what he admitted is a long-term issue of training up more GPs and retaining them, because so many are leaving the profession due to burnout. So it does go some way to solve the issues raised by the pandemic. And hopefully, he says, people will be able to see their GPs in larger numbers, because we've only got just under 60% of consultations now happening in person versus 80% before the pandemic. So it will go some way to solving those issues. And also, we've got the social distancing guidelines changing today, which he hopes will encourage more GPs to see patients in person.
Yeah, but did he acknowledge that tech meant that you don't necessarily have to be in the surgery to see a GP, and not everybody wants that?
Yes, he said that he wants to see increased use of tech across the NHS, and that there will be a lot of people with minor conditions, young people, busy people, who are quite happy to have a video call. But a lot of the concern is focused on people who feel that they want to see their GP and have been unable to. And I think he is alive to those concerns. And this will, he didn't, I thought was interesting, say, I want it to go back to pre-pandemic 80% of consultations in person. It may be that we never go back to that.
OK, for now, thanks very much. Tomorrow's Take 9 o'clock. Looking forward to it. Now, the Queen is to attend the ceremonial opening of the 6th session of the Welsh Senedd, her first without Prince Philip. But with the introduction of mandatory COVID passes in Wales, plus the military being brought in to help the ambulance services meet demand, the First Minister's warned that coronavirus restrictions will continue into next year. Pleased to say that he's with us now. Mark Drakeford, of course. Hello to you, Mr. Drakeford. Thanks for joining us on the programme. I'm sure you're thrilled to be meeting Her Majesty again this morning.
Yes, of course, it's a huge pleasure to have the Queen opening the Senedd for the 6th time. She's been here every time since 1999, and we look forward to welcoming her again today.
Why is it so important to for this to happen in the presence of Her Majesty?
Well, because it marks the significance of the Parliament here in Wales. With a devolved system here in the United Kingdom, decisions are made in 4 different parliaments, and I know the Queen has always taken very seriously the job that she does in marking that. As I say, she's never missed an opening of a new Senedd term, and despite the circumstances and her age, she will be making that effort again today.
Talk to me, if you would, about what's going on with the ambulance service, if I could just slightly move away. Obviously, it's an area that is must be of some significant concern for you at the moment. You don't have enough paramedics.
The ambulance service is under enormous pressure. The numbers of people needing the ambulance service is growing, but it still has to operate under COVID conditions, so that its ability to get back on the road and to see as many people as it did previously is still affected by needing to put on PPE, to observe cleaning of ambulances between calls and so on. We've been able to secure some assistance from the armed forces. We're really grateful for that. We've had it throughout the pandemic. They won't be responding to emergency calls, but they will be helping with some of the more routine work that the ambulance service does, freeing up trained ambulance personnel to deal with the most urgent work that the service has to provide.
Talk to me, if you would please, about sausage wars, Northern Ireland protocol. A lot of freight will be going from your country, of course, over to Northern Ireland. We've heard again from the government this morning, certainly the Europeans appear to have been bending over backwards to try to get this sorted out, but we heard from the Health Secretary that as long as the European Court of Justice is still involved, then it doesn't look as though it'll necessarily get over the line. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it is certainly a very important issue for Wales because our ports face the island of Ireland and trade through our ports is significantly down following Brexit. Now, I am frankly baffled by some of the things we hear from the UK government. The deal is the deal that they themselves signed up to. It is their deal. Yet so often we hear UK government ministers talk as though the deal was entirely somebody else's responsibility. Now, I met the EU ambassador to the United Kingdom yesterday. I agree that the announcements they make do genuinely show practical attempts to deal with the problems there have been at the border. I don't think it's helpful when UK ministers make hardline speeches, drawing red lines, criticising the deal that they themselves had signed. So, from a Welsh point of view, what we've always asked for is for people to be round the table, for people to be pragmatic, for people to be looking for where they can agree, rather than constantly setting out red lines about where they are not prepared to agree.
Whatever you think of Dominic Cummings, he was the man in the room. He was the man that was brought in to get this deal over the line. And he has said again yesterday, he's doubled down and said, we never planned to stick by it. Obviously, we only wanted the bits that we wanted. What would you say in response to that?
Well, a country that behaves in that way will never find partners in the rest of the world prepared to do serious business with them. When the UK puts its name to a treaty with other parts of the world, then it's absolutely incumbent on us to act in good faith with that agreement. And the deep cynicism of the sort that you heard from Mr. Cummings does real damage to the reputation of the United Kingdom and our ability in a post-Brexit world to strike agreements with countries elsewhere.
OK. Busy day and important day for you, so we must let you go. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Now, half-term's approaching and there are places around the world who'd love to welcome back visitors after so long locked down by coronavirus. Let's dare to dream. Should we be joined by the General Manager of the Four Seasons Resort in Burley, Uday Rayo. Hello to you.
Good morning from Bali.
Good morning. Oh, my goodness, look how fabulous it looks behind you. Tell me why I should come to your hotel.
Why? Oh, there's many, many reasons. Firstly, Bali is super safe. The COVID cases are reducing by the day. The vaccination rates on the island are close to 65%. So it's never been more safe. And the Balinese couldn't be more excited to have everybody back on the island. I think 18 months has been far too long waiting for everybody to come back. But this is great. There's light at the end of the tunnel. But the two resorts are ready. We are waiting for guests. We've introduced many new experiences. The smiles of the Balinese still remain. The care, the warmth of the Balinese staff are, as everybody remembers Bali to be. We have brand new spa, which we just completed last year. We have wonderful new experiences at both properties. So we're super excited to have everybody back.
Yeah. I have to say, Uday, you had me at hello, to be fair. Tell me about what we're looking at behind you.
So I'm actually at one of the properties, which is called the Jimbaran Bay. I'm at the Four Seasons in Jimbaran, which is located right on the beach. So what you see is the bay behind me with 2 kilometers of white sandy beaches. And directly behind me is our main pool.
Oh, my goodness.
And the blue skies are real. It's not no photoshopping there.
I believe that the Bali authorities are saying that you want to have more families come, and you want families to come and stay for longer. Is that your understanding?
No, absolutely, because for the last 18 months, travelers, families haven't been traveling at all. They couldn't go. They're cooped up in their houses, their apartments. Children haven't been able to go out at all. So this is a perfect opportunity for families to come and get away and be out in the open and get on the beach, go into the pool, just relax and be together. I think I see more and more of that trend happening in the immediate future. So we're waiting for many families to come.
Fantastic. And just tell me what the temperatures might be doing on October half term, out of interest, asking for a friend.
So it's the tropics. So you're looking at about high 28, 29 degrees with blue skies and plenty of sunshine.
Yeah, all right. It's fantastic. And it looks so lovely behind you. Thank you so much for indulging us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Both Four Seasons. Thank you very much.
Oh, lovely. Thank you for joining us. Thanks very much indeed.
Bye.
Okay. Now, if it's not your kind of holiday, we've got something else. We can take you to Abu Dhabi. Huda Al-Hossani is a guide from Tours by Locals in Abu Dhabi. Hello to you.
Hi, hello.
Hello. Tell me about city breaks. Why are city breaks a good idea for half term?
Actually, you will have like nice beaches, nice places to visit, and even nice architectures to see. As what you see behind me, we have Etihad Towers and Emirate Palace Hotels, one of the luxurious hotels in Abu Dhabi. And with the crisis of the COVID and things, we are like the 6 countries who's handling the most of the things here. So it's totally safe. The cases of the COVID is very low, like as low as you can imagine from the first time we handled with this cases. So the people who's visiting Abu Dhabi or the city, they will have a nice time to experience a lot of things in the capital of the United Arab Emirates.
Now, what would you say to British women who say, how do I know that I'm going to get a warm reception if I travel to a Middle Eastern country?
Actually, we are welcoming all the peoples. We have like a good hospitalities for any people who's coming from anywhere. And I don't know if you hear about that. In Dubai, we have the Expo 2020 started from the 1st of October. So we are welcoming the people from like long time ago. Dubai is starting having the people into Dubai, and Abu Dhabi is the capital. So most of the people, they are curious to know about it because not that much of people visit it. So let's have an area that the kids can go, like they have a theme park, they have a nice beaches, they have nice hotels, and you will be in very safe country also. Like you can walking in the middle of the night, you can walking in at the evening of at the daytime, anytime a day you can walking outside on the street, and you will be safe and enjoying the lovely view of the city.
Fabulous. What's the weather doing?
Okay, nowadays the October is like the best time to visit the country. You can at the daytime it will be between 33 to 30 degrees Celsius, and at the night it will be between 28 to 25 degrees Celsius. But the weather will became more colder since now till January.
Oh, sounds absolutely.
So this is like the best time to visit.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to tell us a little bit more about Abu Dhabi. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot. So another couple of places that you might fancy. We've taken you to Goa, didn't we? We took you to South Africa, the winelands. We took you to Burley, and now we've taken you to Abu Dhabi this week. Who knows where we might take you tomorrow, looking ahead to October half term, now that so few countries are left on the red list. Is this the time for you to start travelling again? If you've got a particular area that you'd like to go to and you want to maybe have a snapshot of it, here on Sky News, why don't you send me a quick tweet at @KBurley and I'll see what our producers can do for you. Now, we've been discussing the European Union officials, haven't we, this morning? They're in London to begin intensive talks on the proposed changes to the Northern Ireland Protocol. Northern Ireland, also a fabulous place to go. European Commission Vice President Maros Sefcovic said the measures could halve customs paperwork and cut checks on meat, dairy and other food products coming to Northern Ireland from mainland Britain by 80%. The plan would also ensure the free flow of medicines, but the oversight of the ECJ would remain, something the Health Secretary just told us, in a major sticking point. Joining us, Aidan Connolly, the Director of the Northern Ireland Retail Consortium. Hello to you. Thanks for joining us on the programme this morning. Aidan, we did hear that the European Court of Justice overseeing the Northern Ireland Protocol is a big problem for the British government, although we have seen quite a lot of concessions by the European Union. Is one reading of it? What's yours?
Well, as far as the European Court of Justice jurisdiction, I think it's easy to say that for retailers, we're more concerned with containers than courts and making sure that there's a free flow of goods. On the face of it, what's in the European papers is quite good. What the business community, not just retailers, but the business community as a whole in Northern Ireland has been asking for since the end of the transition period is a way to remove friction. We're talking about 80% of checks going and 50% of customs paperwork. So that is a really good thing. Now, the devil is going to be in the detail, and we're going to have to run some modelling because, quite frankly, it's not a homogenous retail industry. There's lots of retail sectors within the retail industry, and we're going to have to find out how that works for our members. But on the face of it, this is good news. The only thing to say, the same thing we said whenever the UK command paper came out, a solution is only a solution if it can be agreed with both sides. And that means that both sides need to sign up to whatever they agree, and this needs to happen before Christmas.
What did you make of what we were hearing from Dominic Cummings, that the government was never going to honour the agreement?
Well, I think Dominic Cummings is more than entitled to his own opinion. I think, though, we are more concerned with the government as it is now. We're more concerned with the European Union and the relationship that we have with the European Union as it is now. And quite frankly, a lot of this stuff is a huge distraction. When business want to look at pragmatic solutions, we want to look for those 4 tests that we have, which is stability, certainty, simplicity, removing those frictions, and lastly and most importantly, affordability that keeps businesses competitive and also keeps costs down for Northern Ireland consumers, because quite frankly, we have half of the discretionary income of Great British households, and that means that we can't afford the cost rises that come with friction and red tape.
Do you feel that you are edging closer towards sorting out this sausage wars issue?
I think the sausage war is a complete misnomer. If people think that this was a trade war over sausages, this wasn't even a trade handbags at dawn. I think we are closer. I definitely think, even if you look at where we were in May, and both sides weren't for moving in leaps and bounds, and that's what they've done. However, nothing's agreed until it's all agreed. There's a lot of work to do. We're gratified to see that some of the proposals that were in the EU for non-papers actually came from the Northern Ireland business community. We do know that there are red lines. We do know that there is much negotiation that still needs to happen. What we can say for certainty is that the Northern Ireland business community, and especially Northern Ireland retailers, are more than willing to work with both sides to get a long-term viable solution that works not only for business, but for Northern Ireland households.
It's great to talk to you. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I'm just very keen to show you this. A new project aims to get a better idea of the number of walruses on Earth by counting them, but from space. Thousands of satellite images like these are being searched online by volunteers to see how many walruses they can spot. It doesn't look easy, does it? This area on the bottom, well, there, that was their target. That's what they're looking for. Walruses like these. Scientists need improved population data as they try to assess how the polar species will be affected by climate change, as walruses are heavily dependent on sea ice. You didn't know that, did you? Which has been melting rapidly. He doesn't look that happy about it, does he? You didn't know that. Every day's a school day here on The Breakfast Show on Sky News. Still to come in the next hour. What does the Health Secretary think about his GPs? And more importantly, what do they think about him? Stay tuned for more.